right. Welcome back to another HEF podcast. That is the podcast of the Home Education Foundation. My name is Jason Crawford, the new lobbyist for the Home Education Foundation, and I'm taking over and carrying the torch forward for Brenda Dickinson, the beloved Brenda Dickinson, who has carried that torch for 40 years. 40 years. Wow. 40 years she has been the voice of parents in the Capitol, protecting parents' rights, education rights, the way that we teach our children that we can set the standards and guide their hearts and minds, which is the right of every parent, period. And she fought for that in the 1980s and was able to work alongside Daniel Webster, Representative Daniel Webster, with her husband, Craig Dickinson, and they helped secure home education law, a bill that became law. And since then, in the early 90s, when they started the Home Education Foundation, she has been working, even when her husband passed away, she kept working and doing the work. She tried to step away from it time and time again, and it was just something that things would come up here or there, and she would feel the call to get back involved and to speak up again for parents. And because of her and the hard work that she has done, we have things like the transcript, the affidavit, the dual enrollment scholarships, the Gardner Scholarship. Well, it's now FESUA. She had worked with, was it Camille and Andy Gardner back in the day to help fine-tune and bring that about. And there's just so many things that so many parents across the state of Florida benefit from when they go about their daily lives doing their thing, and they don't even know. They're unaware. And that's just sometimes how life is, that some of these critical historical pieces about life get lost in the hustle and the grind of the day-to-day activities, but not here on the Home Education Foundation's podcast. Here we slow down, we go back to our roots, we talk about what really matters, and we try to help just be a light for parents so that you know someone is here doing this work, but also that you know you're not alone. You're not alone in thinking that your children belong to you and that you should have every right to teach them what you want to teach them. And because of that, we want to say thank you to the parents of the free state of Florida for your hard work. In this August of 2025, we did our first annual fundraiser, and it was a donation match challenge. A home education family approached us and said, hey, if you can raise $6,000, we'll match it with a one-time donation. And we worked all month to try to get the word out, and nothing happened. We lost actually some people because of credit card, timeout and things like that happened. And then right toward the end, the last 3 days, it was a Christmas miracle in August because everyone showed up out of nowhere and made it happen. And we just want to say thank you. So we thank all of the parents in the free state of Florida before we ever start our podcast. We also thank our top sponsors. We want to say thank you to Arete, FPEA, and Fisher Precious Metals for your support in the work that we do. We wouldn't be able to do it without the support. We don't have a big foundation backing us. We are more of a grassroots movement where people who believe in the work that we do and they like their freedoms and want to know that they're secure and that they have someone there speaking up for them as they go to soccer practice or spend time at their kids' baseball games watching them play, or watching them in their robotics clubs, or poring over their math homework at home together as they educate them, that they know someone speaking up for them, and that's where we come in. And so here we are. Thank you for being with us again today, Brenda.
So glad to be here. Give a little historical perspective on what's happening.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you would be the right person to do that. So we're always thankful that you have passed the torch, but you're still here to watch it glow.
Amen. And I'm so happy you're carrying it now, because it's a huge responsibility. And I don't think people understand the responsibility. I felt like a weight was taken off my shoulders, literally, when I passed the torch to you, because you feel so responsible to make sure that you continue to make sure parents have the right to do the things that we believe in, and that they have equal rights to do the things that other kids in the state of Florida do that our taxpayer dollars are paying for. And sometimes, as you've seen, that's quite challenging because the districts want to believe that they own the dollars and we're taking them away from the districts. And so they want to deny kids rights that we have established in statute that they have to participate in various activities and classes and other things. So, or they want to control, what are your bright futures volunteer hours going to be? Well, our district kids have to do it in these designated different agencies, but you can't choose. Well, the law says we can. So, you know, we have to continually enforce those rights, or else people will take them away.
Yeah, and it's as you're talking, I'm thinking about some of the experiences I've had just this week, where I'll talk with families from different counties, and it's not lost on me when I talk to someone from a particular county where they have just encountered an issue, and it gets resolved relatively quickly. Because not everything is a matter of malicious intent, right? Like, not everything is nefarious intent. And so sometimes it's just a misunderstanding. Let's clarify what the statutes say. Let's figure out, okay, your software doesn't do this, but we have to do this for parents. So let's figure that gap out. And, you know, we're here to help massage that and advocate for parents in that process to make sure that you do that. But there's other counties, while I'm talking to those parents, there are other counties that we'll be dealing with at the same time where they just don't want to have anything to do. It's like they put up a giant brick wall around everything that they view as theirs, and they're happy to take your money because you're a taxpayer. They're happy to take your taxpayer dollars and then tell you to snuff off and leave them alone and let them do their thing. You're not a part of this. And there's some nugget of reality to that where, yeah, I don't trust the public education system. I just don't. That's reality. And so I do want to teach my kids my own way, but that doesn't mean there isn't something somewhere that isn't beneficial in some way, shape, or form, that as a taxpayer who helps put it there, we have a right to. And the statutes specifically state it. Things like extracurriculars. And it's funny because I'll be talking to one, but I'll know in the back of my head that there's a totally different issue with another, and I can see the stark contrast so clearly. And it makes me think that there are also counties where there aren't any issues right now. They're like, hey, you're homeschoolers, we help you too. Come here, we'll do this. The home education office is really helpful in other places. And there's this safety net of no problems, right? It's not that everything is just safe and good, but there's a safety net of we're not having any problems right now. And the world that these two families live in are different. It's the same state, the same laws, everything's the same, but the worlds that they live in on a day-to-day basis are actually quite different. And it's not lost on me that some people might be in the middle of those fights and totally get it. And some people might throw their hands up there and go, what's the problem? Who even has a problem with any of this? Yeah, it's interesting.
Let me throw something in that just occurred to me. We have all kinds of people asking for money and trying to get you to join. Our organization is not funded by memberships. We serve all parents in the state of Florida because we work to make it parental rights. And all of the other states don't have the good laws that we do. Some have some of the benefits, but they don't have all the benefits we have in Florida. And the reason that they have them, and I'm not taking credit totally for this, but It's because we had somebody in the Capitol always watching every piece of legislation that would affect parents. We have had some major challenges, and people need to know all this stuff doesn't just happen by accident. It's because there's somebody there in the Capitol voicing what you may be thinking. And there are other organizations in the homeschool community that claim to do things, but I want to set the record straight so that people are clear. May I?
Yes, go ahead. You have 40 years experience. I am not going to tell you what you have or haven't seen. You go right ahead.
Okay. So basically, the three major organizations, FPEA, HEF, and HSLDA, all of those acronyms. So let me tell you what they basically do. It doesn't mean there's not some overlap, but basically the mission of the Florida Parent Educators Association, FPEA, is to provide parents with information about how to homeschool, how to do your at-home program. They provide some curriculum. They have a fabulous convention and bring all kind of curriculum vendors together. And they have other resources there at their convention. And some parents wouldn't miss that convention. It's like their family vacation. It's awesome.
Some people would say it's
we
the
don't
best
do
convention,
that.
Brenda.
Sorry.
We don't do that. We don't do that. We strictly at the Home Education Foundation work to preserve parental rights and to keep Florida free for parents to do that. Our mission is in the Capitol, and that means we're there or we're watching every single committee meeting online that would affect us with every bill that's brought up. Other organizations are not doing that. We are on the ground. Now, you can buy or even do it on the computer. You can track at home every piece of legislation. But if you've tried to do that, you realize that it kind of consumes your life for about 4 months. And so I've missed family vacations. I've missed a lot of activities that I would like to have done because I felt the burden of being there defending your rights. So Jason's not going to be traveling during session. He's going to be available to run to the Capitol, which he has done.
At a moment's notice.
Last session. Yeah, I got home, undressed, and got a call. Boom, he had to go back to the Capitol. So,
yeah, just to add to that point, Brenda, you've even said you schedule your doctor's appointments and dentist, all of that stuff, not during that time of year because you know you're going to be so busy that time of year you can't even schedule regular appointments. So it really is like an all-consuming time period whenever the legislative sessions are running.
That is so true. It's just your whole life revolves around at least 4 months. Now, there are things going on around the year, but they're not quite as intense as it is for those 2 months of committee meetings and 2 months of session. But you can't miss it. If you miss reading one bill and they could be changing an and to an or vice versa, you may have given up some rights. And I've had some really intense arguments with committee staff because they think they're improving the situation. In the later years since 1996, nobody has intentionally tried to do anything to hurt us. However, a lot of their good intentions have caused major problems. And I've been able to fix most of them, but let me just go off on PEP here for a minute. A lot of people are adamantly opposed to the personalized education program, or we call it PEP. I lobbied very intently for 3 years, asking the organizations that were pushing it, asking the legislators, the friendly legislators that we knew, please do not give money to home education families. Because God just gave me this ability to look forward to see how things were going to play out. And I knew that it would change the type of people who decided to, quote, home educate their children. It would be an enticement for the money. It wasn't the families who had been doing it on the shoestring who were clamoring for this money. It was the other people who didn't want to take the responsibility, and they saw this option of maybe buying all the classes everywhere, buying a program and calling it home education. We'd be pulling people out of the public school. Now, every issue has pros and cons. And so you have to weigh carefully whether this is going to be beneficial or not beneficial. So when it came down to the year that they introduced the personalized education program, it was, we want to do something really good for homeschoolers. And I'm saying not really good for home educators. But we were against a tidal wave, one voice in the Capitol against a tidal wave of people that were pushing school choice in every single way you could think of school choice. Mm-hmm. So the best that I could come up with, and I think it was a revelation of God, is to create another category in the ways you can meet regular attendance that just focused on the parents that took the PEP money. Therefore, if any future regulation comes down on those parents have a right to go back to home education with no strings attached. One of the things that I argued very strongly with when I knew we had lost the battle to keep money out of the home education arena was they wanted to make public the test scores in the first year. And I said, absolutely not. I'm going to send out a call to action and flood the Capitol with parents who would be totally opposed to this if you don't give us some break. I said, because the parents that are going to be taking this money are typically not going to be your real, as people say out there, your real home educators or those that are signed under the home education statute. But it would be reflective of what those parents had been doing for years in the home education program and being extremely successful with their children. Most of us don't like tests. We don't turn them in. It measures some things, but not really what your whole education program is. So we fought, and I eventually won that. I asked at least to have 2 years. And in the end, they ended up giving us 5 years before the test results were going to be revealed. Now, why do we have to have test results? Because that's the only thing they can measure. You know, you can't measure portfolios. You can't measure psychological exam. It is exam evaluations. So the only thing that they could think of that would be a uniform measure, and it was being done in the private schools, was to have you turn in test scores at the end of the year. And my thought was, well, in 5 years, the people that are teaching their children at home with a PEP, they'll either be doing a great job or they'll put their child back in a different method of education. And so I think by the end of 5 years, we'll have a pretty good measure of how well the personalized education program is working. Sometimes you can kill bad legislation. And then sometimes the forces that you're fighting are way stronger with their political agendas than you are, and you have to make the best of it. So we didn't sell out home education families by doing this. We, Jason, Crystal, and I see, as many of our traditional home education parents see, a changing culture, which is what Jason talks about a lot, because it's very disturbing to us to see the shift in culture away from parents taking total control of their child's education. I mean, we're not opposed to you take your child to home education instructional program, or your neighbor who's good in math helping with your we're not trying to limit how you do it, but we really want to see that customized education program is done by the parent,
And
not given away to
I
somebody
think it's really
else.
important to dive in here and say that, meekness. I've been hearing a lot of people talk about it lately in different circles of friends that I'm in. Meekness isn't a choice weak people get to make. It's the choice strong people get to make, to be decisive about when to use their power. If they don't have any, they can't make the choice. If a weak person suddenly gets power and authority, doesn't mean they know how to wield it, they have no experience with it. So if you translate that over and you think about money, a lot of people, it's not necessarily that they were making a choice to do without or to do their education this way. They dump a bunch of money into it, and now suddenly they're spending it in different ways, and then we're blaming the money for changing everything, and that's not the case. We have to take individual responsibility for who we give the money to. We have to continue. We want to do the education ourselves. We bring the education home, and we teach our children ourselves because we want to be personally responsible for the outcomes. Then we have to do the same thing when it comes to what we do with the money. We have to be personally responsible for the outcomes. If I buy $3,200 accreditation and then I don't have enough money left to do this with curriculum or to do something over there, I may want to think about why I need that accreditation, or what even is it that I'm really buying when I buy an accreditation? Are these games that people play to get them to get us to throw our money around? Or is it something legitimate? Consider the outcomes. Look down the road at where is this going to take my student? Where do they want to go? Where do they even want to go? I was listening to Nick Freitas talk about how they interviewed one of their daughters was really, really struggling in math and about ninth grade. And he goes, what do you want to do? Like when you are out there, what do you want to do? Where do you want to be? And she said, well, she had a couple of options that she threw out, and not a single one of those options included high advanced math. And he just stepped back and he was like, man, great, we can quit beating you over the head with this, and we can pivot and let you go deep down the avenues that you are interested in and path toward your outcomes. It's very important. It's very important as we look around and see things do change. Money does have an impact. I'm not saying that it doesn't. It has an impact. And some people have not been not choosing to buy those things because they were not good for their family. They've just been not buying them because they didn't have any money. And now they have money and they're buying anything somebody markets to them as a good idea. I cannot tell you the rabbit holes of marketing content that get thrown at me because of all the research that I do. So I'm constantly Googling articles on education or schooling or research or homeschooling or all of these different types of things. And so the algorithms are like, dude, you're really interested in this stuff. Wait till you see some of these commercials. And then it starts throwing me all the commercials. And I'm like, this is disgusting. This is really gross. They're telling parents homeschooling is hard. You can't do it alone. You need help. And guess what? We'll sell it to you. We'll sell it to you for the great old price of a couple of... Wait. How much is your scholarship? No way. It just so happens that's the deal we're running right now. What a coincidence. I'm like, no. Shame on us. Shame on us. We have to be shrewd. We have to be decisive.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Can I add something to that point? I think part of what's happening is that a lot of, like Brenda said, the scholarship has attracted a lot of new home educating families who were not previously doing it. And they may not have the experience or I guess experience is the best word, to discern what is actually a good thing being marketed to them that is useful and helpful versus something that is just being marketed at them through a fear tactic. And so I think this is why it's so important. Like Brenda said, initially she was opposed to the scholarship. She didn't want money coming into home education because she could see the culture change coming. She could see that. But that's not to say that the families that were previously home educating should run away from the scholarship and have absolutely nothing to do with it. In fact, the opposite is actually more helpful, that we dig in there and kind of mentor those new families and help them navigate the options and share our experience as people who were home educating prior to the scholarship, to kind of just help them see that they don't necessarily need all these flashy new things. They don't need everything that's being marketed at them. They can be judicious with how they spend their funds. Because I see the opposite going with a lot of judgment towards families.
Oh, I wanted to hear the
Emma,
rest.
I'm not freezing, but she's frozen. It's weird because we're in the same house.
Yeah.
It's got to be her computer.
Yeah,
And then you know,
We totally
pick up
lost
on
you.
the judgment, Kristen.
You became a
me
beautiful
again?
statue.
Pick up on the judgment.
All right, we can
I
now.
want to hear what you had to say. You were saying as the
okay, yeah,
judgment.
I got an alert that my internet was unstable for some reason. But yeah, I think the families that were doing this before receive a lot of judgment if they choose to take the scholarship now, as though they're selling out somehow. And I think that we have to be careful with seeing it as an us versus them. And I'm not just saying that because I'm in the them camp now. Like I'm not ashamed to say that our kids are on the PEP scholarship, but I've had this conversation with lots of people, and actually I was very nervous about taking it at first. The fact that you have to terminate your home education was scary. What does that mean? Why do you have to do that? But thankfully I had Brenda to explain to me that that was an intentional separation and to understand better why it was set up that way. And so we chose to dive into it as a blessing with our eyes wide open. Like our freedom is not worth trading for money. So the moment that our freedoms become impacted by this, we're willing to walk away. And so I think having people in there who care about preserving the freedoms and who care about preserving the culture of home education is important. If all of those people run away from it, then there's just going to be this tidal wave of shifting culture with no balance to it.
And home educators would then be the ones that get the poor outcomes for test scores if that's the way it goes. But you know, I'm really happy that y'all took it, because that gives you ground level insight into what is happening, because you know how the computers work and don't work, and when they're saying some of the organizations are saying you can only spend it if the curriculum calls for it, where we have freedom in another organization. So y'all get all of the downloads that I don't get because I don't have a child in the PEP program.
Yeah, and it's
a benefit that y'all have it.
And I think it's important to have parents on the inside reporting what's happening. Like, hey, they're denying curriculum reimbursements because of age limit. That was an issue that we never would have known about had we not really been deep into the program and watching what's happening with it. And if the only people who take the scholarship are new, they're likely, Jason has said this before, they're likely to just go with whatever's presented to them. They're used to having no choices. So then when the SFO says, okay, you have a list of 10 curricula you can choose from, they're like, oh, great, I have 10 choices. Whereas we're coming from a perspective of absolute freedom of choice. Like, so that to us isn't a no, absolutely not, you know? So if we're not in there to offer that perspective, then very quickly the culture shifts with no one protecting.
That's so key what you said there. very quickly the culture shifts with no one there to protect it. So this is when if you listen, let's pin this to the committee meetings recently, because the committee meetings started last week, Wednesday. There'll be another one this week. Last week's committee meeting was kind of about the state of things, and this coming week's committee meeting will be about where do we go from here. So last week there was a lot of reporting. This week there's going to be some solution brainstorming. Before we do that, I want to say, Doug, thank you for all of your comments. I will read them in just a moment. You are not blowing us up. I really appreciate everything that you've said. Thank you for that. So last week they're talking about the state of things and where we were. And they were asked, well, how do you get your information? And the answer is, oh, well, we send out polls. We poll them, and we send out emails, and we ask them, and we have little work groups. And I'm like, great. And if there are no home education families that are naysayers, that are opposed to having parents' rights taken away, if there are none of those people around to be interviewed, to be polled what they want, what do you think that program is going to end up looking like? They're going to be abdicators, because they've come from an abdication mindset in other systems where, oh, please teach my kids, oh, please take them all day, oh, please let me drop them off somewhere. And what is going to end up happening is we're going to have a whole system full of those same people. Right now, PEP, where it stands, the personalized education program is great. It stands open. It stands with parents' rights infused into it. Parents get choices over curriculum, not choices between curriculums, but over all the curriculum. And it's flexible, and it's open, and there's actually fewer restraints on PEP than there are on traditional home education right now, currently.
Currently, yeah.
Now, all of that is subject to change. All of everything is subject to change, like Brenda said earlier, with an and or an or a little word change here or there. And these are the things that we fight over. And it's very, very important that we not fight with each other, that we fight the battles that matter. Infighting, a house divided against itself cannot stand. It will not. And I've seen houses divide over dumb... Oh, I almost said a bad word. I've seen houses divide over some really dumb stuff. We have to slow down. We have to see the humans in front of us and their situations and these newcomers into the thought, the school choice. Oh, school choice, homeschooling. I want a homeschool. I want a homeschool, not want to homeschool. I want a homeschool. It's like, whoa, slow down. It's not a homeschool. It's to homeschool. It's to educate, actually. It's not even to school. Let's just get rid of the word school. Let's get rid of that whole systematic approach. What standards do you think exist? Well, I've got to get them in this grade and then graduate them to that grade, and everything should look like a nice, neat little, those trays that we get for lunch at the cafeteria in the school? Yeah, well, education should look like that too. Everything should have a compartment, and when you're done, you just put it back where it goes, and when you get it the next day, and it's all compartmentalized and easy to divide and simple. No, it's messy. No, it's messy. It's messy and it's sacrificial.
Looks more like a casserole. It looks more like a casserole.
Like a casserole. It's messy and it's sacrificial. Both you and your children will make sacrifices. Don't let that go missing. That's true. That's just reality. That's going to happen. And you know what? Public education has its sacrifices too. The parent has to sacrifice all of the time with the child, making memories, teaching character. You may have that as an option. Take it. Go for it if that's your choice. Every choice has a sacrifice. Everything that we choose has a price that we pay. There is no free lunch. Everything that we do has a price we pay, and it's critical. But we have to keep our eyes focused on the battles that matter. We have to be diligent to be unified with each other. And I want to set the record straight, because I've heard people say, oh, well, HEF is pro-scholarship. And listen, you got it straight right here, 12/37, October 13th. If anyone tells you that the Home Education Foundation is pro-scholarship, they are lying to you. It's a lie. It's an absolute lie. We are not pro-scholarship. We are pro-parents' rights. And the parent has a choice to choose to use the scholarship or not. It's there. And inside the scholarship, we want parents to have the same rights. We want those parents' freedom too. We want them to have the same rights. Now, the money is meant to be a boon, and that's great. And as we all know through history, yes, yeah, they're like things get corrupted. Good ideas get corrupted. That's bound to happen, which is why we have to stand in and alongside them, arm in arm together, to push parents' authority over decision-making for their own children, no matter where they are, in the scholarship or not, at a public school or not, in a private school or not, at a micro school or not. Stuff like that's coming. There's all kinds of ideas on the horizon, period. And we don't necessarily get involved in the battles of public education system because there's a whole system there. We are keenly focused on parents' rights and authority over their educating their own children. The ultimate form of that, the freest, most wild and open, savage-looking form of that possible is home education freedom, period.
Well, even parents' rights. I got really deeply involved in the VPK program when it was proposed and then became a constitutional amendment. We had the same thing. We had more parents. That constitutional amendment passed with a greater number of voters in favor of it than any other amendment to our Constitution ever. And the reason was because parents wanted somebody else to do their responsibility and pay for the babysitting of their children so they could go to work. So, you know, one of the other lobbyists that I worked with, which was for the Catholic Conference, after it was proposed, they didn't do the beginning groundwork. That they said, we've got to fight this because this is going to be really bad. And I said, yeah, it is. But now this is a voter issue. Parents are going to vote for somebody else to pay for their child's education. So I fought very hard. I was hired then by the organization of private school called Florida Association of Academic Non-Public Schools because I was such a fighter. And I didn't want them to mandate what curriculum was going to be used, what the teachers' credentials had to be, what their testing had to be. And the state wanted, the proposal was for universal preschool education. The drivers of that really wanted to force all children to go to school at 4. That was the motivation behind that. Well, we fought so hard that, and it was funny because all the cards were on our side. They had none because they didn't have a program if the private schools didn't participate. So I told the leaders of the private school when I was standing against that issue, look, you hold all the cards. They don't have a program if you don't agree to their demands. So you set the parameters. You decide what you will or won't take, because they were afraid their feeder schools, that the kids coming in to the 4-year-old would not be their feeders for the higher grades. But we won the battle, but over time, they didn't stand firm. It was kind of like, okay, we kind of won that battle. Now we'll just go on and do our thing. And I kept saying, I wasn't lobbying for them anymore, but I kept telling the leaders of that organization, if y'all don't fight this issue, they are going to implement a uniform curriculum. They're going to implement a test for your kids. So 2 years ago, it could have been 3 now, I'm really bad with years, but the proposal on the table was during COVID. So it was hard to get to the Capitol. We had to go to a remote location, do everything by video. I am the only person that stood up in opposition to them sending in state-trained evaluators into their schools to evaluate the teacher-pupil interaction, and then they would get reported on how their school was doing. Fast forward to the beginning of the year, the next year, the private schools saying, whoa, what do you mean they're going to send state-trained evaluators into our private program? I said, I told you so. I was the only one that stood up against it. I wasn't hired by them, but I could see where this was going. So that's what happens when people are not diligent at watching their rights. And that's what we're doing with the PEP program. If you get it into the PEP program and you send in evaluators from the state, and some states have this, they come and review your home education program in your home. If you don't stand against it in the PEP program, very soon it will, well, they do it in PEP, so we should do it in the home education program. So you have to look ahead at what is happening. And even though it's not our box of the home education program, you better stand up against it where they're taking away other people's rights. And that's one of the things that we do here, as opposed to just limiting our little box to 1002.41, the home education program. So it's critical. And so now when you do that and you allow those kinds of laws to come into play, it's hard, if ever, to get those rights back.
I'm remembering this not correctly, so I'm not going to quote it, but there was a poem that was written, and it says, first they came for, and I don't remember all the different everything in the list, but it's like, but I wasn't one of those, so I didn't worry. And then they came for this, but I wasn't one of those, so I didn't worry. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to defend me. And there's this reality to the fact that we might just be wanting to be free and left alone, and that's wonderful. But parents in public school deserve their rights too. And there is a place where home education families can go to a school board, and when you see a parent's rights being infringed upon, you can speak up because they're a parent. You have that in common, and they're your children. And we want the battle line far afield from home education. We want to be left alone and insulated over here. So we want to make sure that the scholarship people's battle line is over here, and the private school's battle line is over here, and the public education line is up there. And we keep that fight as far afield as possible, and we keep parents' rights way up there, fought for. Our mission. Go ahead.
I think private schools are really the ones we need to watch, because if the rights are taken away from private schools, not public schools, then they're coming after us next.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Again, Doug, thank you for all of the comments that you're throwing in there. It's absolutely wonderful to see your enthusiasm, and I appreciate that. It's nice to see that we have good listeners. I'm just shifting a little bit, same topic, but a narrow shift. I came across an article this morning while I was kind of doing research and looking things up on, where we are with the, the committee meetings. And so this article is from the Tallahassee Reports, tallahasseereports.com. And it says, study reveals lack of confidence in Florida schools. It's from October 12th, so it's from yesterday. And it says, the Institute of Governance and Civics, IGC, at Florida State University recently published their findings after surveying 1,234 Florida voters before the 2024 general election about trust in public schools. This is before the 2024 general election. They found an alarming, quote unquote, alarming number of Floridians do not trust K through 12 schools, and that their distrust primarily comes from concerns that schools have become overly politicized. Only 38% of Floridians trust K through 12 schools. Let that sink in. Partisanship plays a significant role in how much Floridians trust schools. Democrats trust them more, Republicans trust them less, independents trust them somewhere in the middle. So it does have a bit of a line there when it comes to the trust. But when you get down to the bottom of this and you look at it, the survey found that 77% of Democrats, 69% of independents, and 85% of Republicans support the idea of requiring civics in education. And the second most popular option is providing more transparency with parents. 58% of Democrats, 65% of independents, and 83% of Republicans agreeing that more information would boost trust, so being more transparent with parents. It isn't just about being more transparent. I mean, I think that's good. But it's about authority. When you have in 2018, because see, this is kind of leading up to things, but in 2018, you had the Sarasota School Board meeting where, and I can't remember what position she held, if it was chair or superintendent, but I think it was chair. No, it was chair. She was arguing with the superintendent. And she said parents can't expect full authority over their children. That's us. We have that. And this argument blew up and it went viral on social media, and you've probably seen it. And if not, it's worth looking up. But that's just 2018. That's just 2018. So they wonder why we don't have a lot of trust. And I get it. People who don't trust the scholarship program, they're reticent for the same reasons. Well, once you get in there and you give over all of your options and you become attached at the hip to this scholarship, then they control you by the nose. They take you and lead you wherever they want you to go. Well, that's why I'm ready to leave. That's why I'm ready to walk away. I'm not going to indenture myself into this program in a way where I'm in for $3,400 on a accreditation over here and $800 on a curriculum over there and $5,000, and I'm so glad the scholarship covers this, because the $12,000 I had to pay I wouldn't be able to do myself out of pocket, and I'm just in over my head in expenses for education without being shrewd and decisive and able to walk away. See, if you go to a negotiation table and you can't walk away, you're not in control. At all. At all. You must maintain the posture and the disposition, mentally, emotionally, and physically, to walk away and take care of your family and do what you believe is best for them. And you have the authority and the ability to do that. That's why home education is a separate path from PEP, and that's why Brenda was so brilliant to make it that way. Because when you look at PEP, it's a great opportunity. It's an option. And parents' authority needs to be stood on in that option. But if it becomes egregious, onerous, restrictive, maintain the disposition of walking away. And tap into a community that's going to do the same with you. Tap into a community. Our Discord, I mean, we talk about this a lot, but our Discord is there. It's a wonderful community of a lot of people of a like mind who share ideas about home education and some of the issues that come up about sports or other issues with the counties. Some people wanting to do clubs or take a class here or there, or just having your rights. What information needs to go in the letter of intent, or they said I had to do this or that. What does it mean? All of those things are things that you can jump into our Discord and find a community that is informative, helpful. They have history. Brenda has 40 years of history. She's not in there, but I am. And so is our board and a lot of other people who run homeschool programs across the state of Florida. And you can make connections and find those people. And when There's a channel by county in there. If you want to get families together and go to the school board meetings and post the notes about what you saw and recap things, we are very happy to give you a space to coordinate that. This Discord server is not for all homeschoolers everywhere. This is a Florida-based organization, and we are Florida home educators, and the laws in Florida are very different. So all the stuff that you see on those 80,000 Facebook participants, there's 152,000 home education students. So do the math. Somebody either got almost all of them in their Facebook group, or there's a lot of people in there that aren't really homeschoolers. So, especially in the state of Florida, they could be from all over the place. And I will tell you that in our server, we're very careful with the onboarding to try to make sure that these are home education families. There's over 400 of them in there at the moment, and it's growing constantly, and you're invited to be one of them. We have policies about self-promotion, and we have policies about sharing information, citing sources, keeping the focus of what we're talking about is what we're talking about, and not making it personal, because it should be a place where difficult conversations can be had about what's what. And we want to develop accurate understanding of what our options and freedoms are and how best to stick up for them. So that's a wonderful thing that's there for you to tap into. But we have to foster this sense of unity as we move forward and not become ostriches that just feel safe because we stick our head in the sand while our rump remains up in the air. You know, we've got to do better than that. It's so important.
That way you get kicked. Fill in the blank.
That's right. Go ahead. Yes.
I want to make a point. We didn't finish the first thing I was
ahead.
telling. So, and it ties in with what you're just saying.
Mm-hmm.
We're Florida, but the other organization which markets to Florida is the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. They serve a great purpose. They watch over all of the 50 states, and they have representatives, attorneys that help those states that need help. But they're not on the ground lobbying in Florida. They don't do our job. They watch federal legislation. We don't do that. We may keep up with it, but we're not in Washington, and we're not doing that kind of legislation. So when people ask me, which organization should you join? I'll tell them all three, because we don't do the same. All three organizations do something else. They all are needed. And your support for Florida should be for the Home Education Foundation. And I just think it's really important that people realize that FPEA is not doing the job. They support us. HSLDA is not doing Florida job. They're doing a different job, which is important, but it's not our job. So it's a little bit for parents to give to support their freedoms. And, you know, a $10 donation a month from parents is 2 cups of coffee to support the work that we do here. We don't charge membership fees, but we definitely need your support, because Jason is giving up a lot of his ability to do work that would bring in money for his family to do this work. And he's made great sacrifices, even moving to Tallahassee. You could possibly lobby from somewhere else, but you'd have to be able to travel to Tallahassee for 2 months out of the year. So it would be expensive. So he chose to move his family to Tallahassee. It was a great move for them, but they didn't know that when they made the choice.
We moved up.
So
it was pretty scary at the moment, because there wasn't a lot. There wasn't. I don't want to dive into
we
it
literally
right
we moved up here. Just as a quick nutshell, we moved up here literally, Brenda, you were the only person up here we knew. And we moved into a rental site unseen, just like showed up with a moving truck. Like we were taking a leap of faith in our move here. And it has really been a blessing for us. But it was definitely kind of just, we knew we needed to be here for the work, so we came.
I will.
But Jason gave up a lot of clients that he was doing marketing work for to shift over to do the work here. And he's done a fantastic job. But parents need to support it, because if they don't, and they don't have a lobbyist in Tallahassee to watch everything that's going on, their rights could quickly be taken away. I gave you the example of the private schools. Now they got to live with that oversight. So grandparents, shape up, because your grandchildren are the ones that are benefiting from the work that we do. And a lot of grandparents say, well, I finished mine, now it's up to my children. Well, they may not be able to support the work, but maybe since you're not spending money on home educating your own kids, you could help support the Home Education Foundation. So we've kind of run out of time, but I wanted to hear what Doug was saying.
I'll go back and read Doug's. I want to read Tracy's real quick. She says, we're grateful for your willingness to serve. She says, in talking about the different organizations, she says they're different, yet we overlap and definitely help each other. And I think I want to just echo that. I very much appreciate the relationship and how it has blossomed with the FPEA, and the way that we work together to help families. It's such a beautiful thing, and I'm very grateful for their support. And I try to keep them as informed and tight-knit and share connections and resources with them as much as possible. And I feel like it's a great relationship that has been just growing, and I'm so thankful for that. And I look forward to this similar kind of situation with HSLDA. I don't hear from them much, and I think that I would love to. I'd love to reach out and connect with them a little bit more and to understand. But if you're home educating in the state of Florida, I think there are valid things that you get from each of these organizations, and it's important to know that. It is. It really, truly is. So let me go back up, and I'll read some of Doug's comments. Doug, thank you so much for being here today and having what you said. He says, thank you for your, and just so you guys know who Doug is, we had a knockdown drag out in his county over a situation with his daughter, who they were homeschooling, and then they weren't allowing her to participate in the extracurriculars, so they enrolled her in the public school because they strong-armed them into doing that. And then they decided, you know what? No, we got to go back to homeschooling. And when they did that, they pulled all the extracurriculars, stripped them away from them again. And Stassi, our commissioner, he got involved, and it was quite an intense endeavor, I will say. But Doug is one of those fathers who fights for his family, and I appreciate him. So Doug says, thank you for your continuing fight for the homeschoolers. We need to be good stewards of the gifts we are provided. Your information, guidance, and convictions are a blessing. Politicians, legislators, activists, teachers' unions, a significant number of public educators, etc., have a deep mindset against homeschooling. Our daughter is grades ahead of the level that she would be at if she were in public school. They don't recognize that as a benefit. They look at homeschoolers as a threat to their job security. Yeah. Doug says, we are so blessed to have your organization, along with Commissioner Stassi, to fight for the rights of homeschoolers. Doug says, I agree. Education should focus on the individual student, not of the masses. Not every student learns at the same rate or at the same level. There are different methods of learning. Also, as we found out with our daughter. So that's a much longer comment. I'm going to skip down some more to one part of our conversation. He says, that's the reason why we have shied away from the PEP program from the beginning. We could use the scholarship monies and opportunities, but I will not allow them to take away our right of choice or decision-making over our child's educational future. Public educators also look at parents that utilize the PEP program as stealing money away from them. Yeah, they do. And then Julie from Brevard says, glad you created the Discord. It will continue to grow. Tracy says, I've read her comment, but she says, goodness, I'm in the middle of writing this text, and And I just said the exact same thing, basically. So there's a lot of unity here. And oh wait, there's one more from Elizabeth Lizzo. She says, I'm a parent of a 7-year-old homeschooler on the spectrum, and this is our 2nd year. Thank you for all you do for the parents who want a choice in their kids' education. I'm following everyone I can, so my grandson, who is a month old, will also have the opportunities. Bless you for that. Bless you for that. We're a resource. We're here to help share accurate information. Yes, we have opinions. The Home Education Foundation has a mission. Jason Crawford has opinions. The Home Education Foundation's mission and our board is aimed squarely at protecting the rights of parents in education. Jason Crawford has opinions about what that looks like. So our board discusses things. Brenda Dickinson has opinions about what that looks like. And she's done a fantastic job over the last 40 years being the voice of parents and doing a great job representing home education. It's just so misunderstood. Up until recently, 2%, 3% of the population in Florida were quote-unquote homeschoolers. And now it's somewhere near 8%. It's wild, the amount of ballooning and growth. But that ballooning and growth is coming from that reaction from that article that we saw, where there's not a lot of trust in the public education system, but there's also not a lot of experience in the new homeschool crowd who's come out of that. There's not a lot of experience of knowing how to do it another way. It's one thing to see something go wrong and go, man, I don't like that. It's another thing to be able to see something and build it rightly in a different way. And the older homeschool crowd, we have to help these new people. We have to bring them under our wing. We've got to put them in our ships and say, hey, now that you're on the ship of a homeschool ship, this is how it looks. It's weird and it's free and it's savage. I want my kids to be savage. I really, really do. I look at them and I want my boys to grow up and be thought of as dangerous, savage kids with sharp, keen minds that can read and argue and fight. That's really what I want for my boys. So, yeah. And I hope what you want for your family is something that you can put up and have a vision and work toward it. And by law, you have the right to do that. And you should. So there we go. Brenda, you take us out today.
Well, we are standing in the gap for you because we believe that parents are the teachers. They should be of their children. And I'm so grateful that Jason's found a way to connect parents, because we used to have local support groups where parents got together and they, go, I'm afraid to teach this. And another parent would say, oh, I'm great at math. I will teach your kids if you'll teach mine English. And we swapped off expertise in those support groups. Or I'm feeling like I'm not doing as good a job as I should with my kids. And then there are parents there that say, I felt that way, but. And so the Discord is the way that people are connecting now, as opposed to person-to-person, face-to-face support groups. And I think that if parents will join this Discord groups, you can meet other families in your county who are home educating, and you can build that support for yourself. So I think connection, support, encouragement, all of those things are really important on the pathway to educating your children at home, whether you're a PEP parent or whether you are a straight home education family. I want to throw out one other thing. Parents sometimes can't think outside of the box. And so there are parents for years that said, gee, I wish we had a tax credit program here where we got our money back that we paid our taxes for. Well, guess what? That's what the PEP program is.
Yeah.
They're okay with not paying their money to the state, but the state said, okay, you want to home educate your children? We'll give you your tax dollars back. Here they are. It's just a different vocabulary, but it's the same end result.
There you go. Well, home education families, we love you guys. We appreciate all of the sacrifices that you do to make it happen, because we know what those are. We're right there with you. So we want to say thank you to the parents of the free state of Florida for all the effort and work that you put into supporting us, but also taking the charge, leading the way, and taking your children under your wing and teaching them yourselves. We want to thank the top sponsors that we have: Arete, FPEA. Thank you, FPEA. Fisher Precious Metals and TBHC Group. Thank you as well, TBHC. Until next Monday, I'll let you guys have your day back. And thank you for all the great comments, all the great community today and conversation. And if you're looking for more of that, hop in the Discord.